everybody. Hope everybody's doing well. My name's Cristiane, and I'm an exercise therapist with Simply Health Solutions. And today I wanted to talk about a research article about the benefits of outdoor walking groups. Fear of walking outside can have a lot of different negative effects on a lot of different seniors, especially in my work with clients who are homebound and seniors who are very nervous to go outside. You actually do see those negative effects in real life. A lot of people get very socially isolated. Their physical health takes a toll, their mental health, and just being a part of their community actually really impacts them. If they have if let's say those individuals have people living with them, so if they've got their adult children or grandkids live nearby, those people tend to do relatively a lot better. But a lot of times, if people are very nervous to leave their homes, there's a lot of different things that can come up that cause problems, not only short term, but also long term down the road. The thing is, as this research article is going to show, group walking programs can actually be really helpful. So, I'll be discussing a little bit of their findings and a little bit of how this can actually help us. So, basically, I'm going to just talk about the study design, kind of what they did, some of the results that they found, and the importance of these findings. So basically, what this program did is they decided to take 240 participants, so people who were over the age of 65. And at first, pretty much everybody did a 1 day education workshop. So they had a bunch of different topics, bunch of different people came in and kind of shared a bunch of different things that they could learn and practice. And then from there, they divided everybody into two groups. There was the outdoor walking group where twice a week for 1 hour each, these people would come together and they would walk in a particular area. So, like an outdoor walking area, whether that was a park or a track, it would kind of depend on what they had access to. But it was just that idea of they took this group of people and had them all walk together. The other group, so what we call in kind of the research world a control group, were people who were just given telephone reminders. These were 10 weekly calls to try to encourage people to go out to exercise, trying to get them to be as physically active as they can without physically these people being involved in their physical activities. So it was, like I said, it was a weekly phone call, just making sure that these people are trying to be active and trying to get out there. The education session topics actually was kind of interesting when I looked at the article. It included things like setting SMART goals, how to use Nordic pole walking, even foot care, which I think a lot of times gets forgotten in terms of walking groups and balance and strengthening and seniors exercise programs. A lot of times the feet tends to be forgotten about. So I really appreciated that they actually covered that. They also talked about falls prevention and also proper use of walking aids. So this can include things like canes, walkers, making sure it's the proper height, making sure they're using them correctly. So really kind of a well-rounded just education session on making sure that people are feeling confident when they are exercising and walking outside. Now, the thing that this study was trying to look at is to cover a bunch of different things that might limit somebody from exercising and going outside. Obviously, they won't be able to cover everything, but I thought they did a pretty good job at actually covering a lot of different things that somebody might worry about, such as having poor social support. There are individuals who maybe they just don't have any friends or family nearby, and they're nervous to go out on their own and go for a walk. The distance to certain walking destinations, physical barriers, physical loads, lack of resting areas. I know I help out with a lung disease program, so that's something we always think about is making sure that people who are exercising they do get a chance to sit down, take a rest if they are feeling out of breath. And then there's also things like, if somebody's really worried about their balance, they're really worried about their strength, if they've got certain depressive symptoms, or just in general, just a decreased motivation where they don't really have that motivation to really go out and try. Um, which can really, really limit somebody's ability to exercise. And as I mentioned, obviously they won't be able to cover everything. But I thought the study actually did a pretty good job at taking a look at different things and different factors that they could take into account and help people overcome. When it came to the study results, the main thing that they were looking at was minutes walked per week. So they wanted to see if the people who were in the walking group were actually going to do more walking than the people who just received telephone calls. They also measured a couple of other things, which is also really, really great to see. So they looked at walking endurance, heart rate, blood pressure, because we do generally in the exercise world find that as you exercise, your heart rate does tend to, your resting heart rate does tend to go down, your resting blood pressure does tend to go down. So for those who do have maybe high blood pressure, maybe a high heart rate, if you've got some anxiety symptoms, sometimes exercise can be a really, really great way to combat those symptoms. They also looked at leg strength and overall quality of life and seeing, what is this person's life on a daily basis and has it improved since joining the program? Now, it's kind of interesting when they actually looked at the data and compared these two groups because the main thing that they were looking at, which was walking time, they actually found no statistical difference between the two groups in the time spent outdoors. Now, I'm going to discuss a little bit later why that's not necessarily a bad thing. But as for the walking group, they did find that those individuals actually did improve in their walking capacity. So their walking speed and their total distance. So when they did their kind of pre and post testing of, their ability to walk certain distances and, their timed measurements, they actually, those individuals actually did get better. And their confidence got better too, which I've seen in a lot of people that I've worked with is just that idea of I think a lot of people think of exercise as this huge thing that they've got to overcome, and if they're not out there, sweating buckets for 2 hours a day, 5 days a week, then there's no point in doing it. But honestly, even just, 10 minutes of exercise a day can actually be really, really helpful. And then even they looked at their leg strength. So these individuals, like their legs got stronger, their balance, all these different things actually did improve, even though technically their time spent outdoors didn't actually change all that much compared to the telephone group. So, in terms of this overall study, they did actually find that the people who were in this walking group, they walked with more confidence. And I think that's huge because a lot of people, when they go out and maybe they're trying to walk to the grocery store or they're going to go, they got to go to the bank or they've got to go to a doctor's appointment. For people who maybe are younger or don't have as many health problems, it's not really that big a deal. But to a lot of people who have either health issues or who are seniors, it's actually very, very scary. Even just kind of stepping off a curb, depending on your fitness level, even that is actually really, really scary. So just the fact that this walking group that people felt more confident in doing these exercises was actually a really, really great thing to see. These individuals felt stronger, they felt more fit, they walked further when they did their testing, and just walked with more ease. And I think that's another really, really big deal is going from, being able to walk one block, but really, really struggling to go through that block, to maybe after a couple of weeks of training that you're able to still walk that one block. And maybe you're still a little bit, huffing and puffing at the end of it, but you've gotten better. You're more confident. You're feeling stronger. And you're maybe more willing to kind of push yourself maybe a little bit more, again, is a really, really great thing. And the other thing that's really great about just groups and exercise groups is just this idea of interacting socially. So it's not just the exercise component, but it's also that social component as well. Especially in my case as an exercise therapist and having ran exercise groups pre-COVID, during the pandemic, and post-COVID, that social aspect is actually huge. And I'm really, really big fan of in-person groups where people can share and socialize and discuss. And that's one of the reasons why I love working with exercise groups, because it's just this ability of people, they come together. And in my case, I've seen people make really great friendships, and maybe they're in a group like this, so a walking group or an exercise group, and then maybe after the program is done, they actually decide to start exercising together now that the program's done. But because they've kind of put this in their calendar, they have um, been diligent in doing these exercises, then once the program's over, I always really encourage my participants to really go out. Now that you've built this into your calendar, built this into a habit, make sure you try to keep that habit for as long as possible. And then why is this important? Well, approximately one third of older adults walk outdoors less than 3 days a week. Now, that statistic is going to definitely change depending on where you live. I've lived in various different parts of Canada. So if you live in downtown Toronto or Vancouver, that's going to look very, very different from Northern Ontario. If you're in a very, very small town, or if you're in a town that gets really, really hot in certain parts of the year, or really, really cold, those those factors are going to impact whether or not you are outside for a significant amount of time. Or especially, here in British Columbia, we're often kind of thinking about the forest fires and the air quality. So maybe for those who have lung diseases, um, then they might not be spending too much time outdoors because of weather related issues, right? So again, that statistic, always kind of take into account your own situation. But it is going to be helpful if you can and if you're willing to be outside and try to be active outdoors. Being homebound, as kind of I often think of it, is can lead to a lot of different issues. It can lead to social isolation, which to me is kind of one of the biggest issues, because it kind of starts this downward spiral. Because for people who are stuck home alone, don't really have anybody to talk to, um, maybe they have no way of getting around in the community, that social isolation really does cause a downfall of other things down the road. Um, Decrease in physical abilities, decrease in mental health, risk of falling, and just an overall reduced quality of life. Like that, it's really, really unfortunate when somebody feels that they can't leave their homes due to maybe some health issues, or whether that's physical or mental, or just that fear of going outside. It really, like I said, really does limit somebody. And those factors impacting, somebody's exercise capacity is never, very rarely is it ever just one thing. It can be a wide combination of physical factors, psychological, environmental. There are so many factors to consider, but it's that idea of, for those who are looking to get into some sort of exercise program, that first initial part is always the hardest part. But if you can, find a way to go out and find a exercise group, you'd be really, really surprised at what you might find after maybe a couple of weeks or a couple of months of being in that program. And now, how do these exercise results or these study results help people as individuals? Now, as I mentioned, when they looked at total walking distance between the telephone group and the walking group, there wasn't that much of a difference. But to me, I actually thought of that as potentially a good thing. The idea being that even the people who all they got were weekly telephone reminders was good enough to get these people to go out and walk and maybe explore their neighborhood, maybe try to make plans with friends to go out. I know a lot of people, especially if you're in an area that has a lot of maybe just different weather issues. So whether you're in a heat wave or there's a lot of snow or ice or rain, um, I know a lot of seniors who actually really like going to shopping malls early morning, kind of as they're just opening up, and they do their walking inside the shopping malls because then it's weather controlled. The floors are nice and maintained, and it's just a nice way to kind of socialize with a bunch of individuals. And I've seen that kind of idea in a lot of different places. So that's one way that you can try to be more physically active. So again, it doesn't have to be that you're in this official walking exercise program, this official balance program or arthritis program or anything that you're kind of looking into. Even just going for a walk with friends can actually be really helpful, or going out for a walk by yourself in your neighborhood, depending on where you live, what your neighborhood looks like, depending on all these different factors. But again, just kind of going outside, trying to be as active as you can within your own, limitations, and keeping in mind kind of whatever it is that's going on. Um, you'd be really surprised at what you can achieve. If you do have kind of specific questions, if you ever want to meet and kind of discuss your specific situation and maybe figure out ways to get yourself more physically active, feel free to send me an email and we can always try to book an appointment. And if you are interested in learning more, like I said, you can send me an email. You can find more information on my website. And also, don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel and keep checking in for more information on a regular basis. Thanks for joining. Bye.